Starting Tech News Weekly in 3, 2, 1.
Hey everybody, welcome to Tech News Weekly. I'm your host, Andrew Zarin. Of course, I'm joined by John in a transmitter site once again. How you doing, John?
How's it going?
How's it going? Are you installing new microwaves?
Yes, I'm here at the GFQ website data center, and we're doing some upgrades to our data center so that we can have all these cool things. Actually, you know what? We do have an upgrade. People in the chat room see a new bot in our chat room called Showbot. And you can suggest titles for shows now. So if you do the !S and then whatever title you want to suggest after that, you can suggest show titles for our shows now, which is really cool. You can actually vote on them. So if there's a title you like, you just click it and you can vote on it. It's really cool.
Yeah, so you do what is it? !S, and then you vote for. You could put whatever you want it to be. So I just typed random words.
Yep, you'll get a message back from Showbot, and it'll tell you where to go to see all the voting.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool, and you guys have been voting for the names of the episodes. We did it with What the Tech. We did it last week. I think we're gonna try this out, see if we could get this going as a thing here on the show. John, how was your week?
Interesting.
You know, I have not spoken to you all week.
Why is that?
I don't know. It's weird.
You don't like me anymore?
No, I love you, but
I'm fired, aren't I?
Absolutely never. How dare you? It's weird. This week was, you know, things get so hectic in the summer, and everybody, like, my schedule's all whacked out because things are happening. You know, the World Cup was this year, so the beginning of the summer was kind of distracting for me. And now I'm noticing, like, everybody's out of the office, so I'm taking more time to myself, and I'm pretty much not doing anything. And I have not spoken to John about work. And normally August hits, and this is our crunch time because we do all our changes for the new year. So September is like our new year here at the network, and that's how we've always done it the last couple of years. And I haven't spoken to John at all this week, and now it's like, oh, we got a month to get our act together with, you know, everything that's happening. We're going to be adding a bunch of shows. I think John is coming up here to New York for a couple days in September. So we have a lot of stuff happening. A lot of stuff. I think Colm is coming here in 2 weeks.
Is he?
Yeah. Jess is going to Poland, and Colm is coming by. So
trading one wife for another.
Yeah, trade one wife for the other. Why don't we go through some stories, John? What do you think?
Sure.
Amazon Prime members. You know, at first I thought this was really dumb, and I was like, I'll never use this service. It's not for me. So if you're an Amazon Prime member, you could actually choose a slower shipping option, and if you do that, you get $1 credit for on-demand video. And for the, you know, I'm like, I don't want that. I don't care for it. But Jessica's been watching a lot of stuff on Amazon Prime. She got into Suits. She's been watching Suits, and the latest season you got to buy. And I'm thinking, I'm like, you know what? That'll be awesome if I could. Every time I'm ordering something, which I probably order something every week from Amazon, or 2 things every week, I could just select the slower shipping option, and just get it, you know, a day or 2 late and get $1 off. I think that's awesome. Yeah. And they benefit from that tremendously because they don't have to pay for that extra shipping.
And by the way, these credits do not expire.
No, so you could build them up.
Yeah.
I think something like that is great because you use Amazon Prime all the time to watch video.
I do. I don't necessarily use their video service as much. And I guess part of it is because you have to pay for a lot of the stuff that is there. And I'm just not one for paying much for stuff. I don't know. It's just one of those things that I don't know if I would... how quickly am I going to rack up enough credits to get something, you know? That's what it comes down to for me.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the option is...
If you buy a lot of... I mean, that's what it comes down to, is even with Prime, you still have to buy a lot of stuff in order for those credits to become useful.
Well, if you order something once a week, that's $52 a year.
I think it would be more beneficial if...
per item?
You could use that on either video or music.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess something like that would be good. But you know, I've been using Amazon a lot. I actually should add up how much money I spend on Amazon a year. Because right now, like, I ordered light bulbs and I got it from Amazon.
I spent $200 just this week.
Yeah, So,
Using the GFQ link, by the way.
oh, thank you.
gfq.co/Amazon.
Thank you. But I think this is cool, and I'm hoping that a lot of companies do this. The shipping aspect of Amazon is really the only thing that gets me to go to them. The pricing is the same everywhere. I mean, they're competitive, but you can get the price anywhere. But the shipping, the fact that you could get next day or 2-day shipping for virtually nothing. I mean, $3.99 for next day shipping is nothing.
No, I would have done that on what I ordered this week, except they wanted $13 for it to be delivered.
Yeah, it wasn't Prime's eligible. So I think something like this, you know,
If it was $4, I would have done it, but not for 13.
Not for $13. John, you Snapchat.
Absolutely.
So do I. We Snapchat each other all the time. We're constantly snapping each other.
Do you like my pictures?
I do. I love them. I love them.
I try to find the stupidest stuff and send it to you.
You know, I was doing, like, all my friends got into it, so everybody was snapping each other, and it seems to have slowed down. I think people are starting not to use the service as much, but they were evaluated. The company is possibly worth $10 billion. This is according to Bloomberg.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand how a company that has no revenue could be valued at an incredible $10 billion. I mean, that's astonishing.
That's crazy that they want $10 billion for this. And just a few years ago, wasn't it Facebook that wanted to buy Snapchat for about $3 billion?
Yeah, they did. About last year.
So I guess they're looking at some more venture capital from Alibaba, which I believe is a Chinese company, a big Chinese company. It's basically like the Google or Amazon of China.
They're more like trading. It's like a weird Amazon type service.
By the way, I just sent you a Snapchat.
Oh, did you? Thank you. I believe it's called A Bubble.
It's Alibaba.
I thought it was Alibaba too. Maybe it's not. A Bubble. I believe that is called A Bubble. Another bubble? I'm getting confused.
Yeah.
Oh, meaning it's a bubble and it's going to burst. Now, if to kind of put things into perspective, Dropbox is a $10 billion company. But Dropbox has corporate enterprise funding it because a lot of people use it for business. Personal use, it's a monthly service. So Snapchat has no set revenue. They don't have a model that works. This is the tech bubble.
No, but
I mean, you create a company.
They necessarily have the need for the same overhead as Dropbox?
No, you don't. But there's what's Snapchat's revenue? How do they make money? I mean, I know they have venture.
Well, they're looking, I think, to roll out some ways to generate revenue, such
Snapchat
as some
Pro.
sort of shopping or some sort of upgrades to the application itself that you can purchase.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand how a lot of these companies are being evaluated at such a crazy high price.
Are you jealous? Jealous that GFQ isn't worth $10 billion?
Listen, I'd settle for $1 billion. Give me $1 billion. I'll settle for that. But it's insane to me that these companies have no set revenue, and yet they are being evaluated at billions of dollars. And Curtis B has a point. He goes, on the other hand, Amazon loses money almost every quarter, but their stock prices still remain high. Amazon loses a ton of money. The future of Amazon is the services aspect. They don't make a lot of money on the items that they're shipping because they're trying to undercut so quickly. So it's a weird market out there. It really is. But I'm curious on if Snapchat is being evaluated at $10 billion, what are all these other apps that, some people are using, but a lot of people aren't? Like Viber, for example. What would Viber's evaluation be?
Or even Shazam.
Shazam.
Waze.
Yeah, Waze. Well, Waze
is owned by
bought.
Google or
Waze got
Apple.
Google bought them.
Like there's Shazam. What else do I have on here? Yeah, Kick.
Okay, Kick. Great example. The Kick is a popular service. I wonder what their evaluation is. And then you look at other companies like Stitcher and TuneIn, and these are popular apps. What are they evaluated at? It's an interesting thing. I'd love to get some of those numbers on what these people are evaluating these companies for. John,
I think the bottom line is that they're going to be worth more than what they really should be.
What they really should be. Going to this FCC story.
Which one? There's a couple of them.
Whichever one you want to go into.
Well, the FCC, I think that you're alluding to is the one that where the FCC head Tom Wheeler sent out a letter to Verizon, which earlier this week said that they are going to begin throttling unlimited LTE data users.
Which there aren't too many unlimited users left. I mean, those people are people grandfathered in at this point.
But FCC Chairman Tom Wheeler sent a letter to Verizon Wireless CEO Dan Mead criticizing the carrier for their new policy, saying that he's deeply troubled by the move and suggests that the arbitrary slowdowns may actually be violating the open access rules that Verizon said it would obey back in 2008.
Yeah, they don't have to do anything.
I believe we're both Verizon customers, right?
We are, yeah.
And I don't have unlimited, but I think the majority of people don't have unlimited, and people that do are holding on to it for dear life.
Yeah, what they did a couple of years ago, I think it was like a year and a half ago, they kind of forced everybody to a different plan. So if you had an unlimited plan, they kind of forced you to like an 8 gig
share
plan.
Everything stuff.
The share everything stuff. So like we have 8 gigs, share everything. And if you travel, and if I was traveling for 2-3 days. Between Jess and I, we went through everything, all the data. I had to pay an extra like $10 to get 2 more gigs. But we went through everything because Wi-Fi wasn't really good.
But they already throttle 3G now if you're unlimited.
They
so
do,
is it
yeah.
really that big of a deal that they're going to throttle LTE now as well?
And at what point do they start throttling? That's what I want to know.
I think it's going to be similar to the same where it's the top 5%.
Whatever that is.
Yeah.
But
that's interesting that the FCC is criticizing Verizon for this move.
Yeah, considering
Wheeler, I'm fine with, but at the same time, it's just a little interesting.
This is going to be a major problem over the next couple of years. The ISPs have kind of given up on the concept of throttling your broadband at home. They're realizing that it's getting harder to do that because it's getting competitive, right? We have Fios. Time Warner, the speeds are crap, but Optimum and all these companies are doing, they're offering higher speeds and more people are consuming more data with YouTube existing. And we're not talking about piracy. If you're spending your day on YouTube and you're spending your day on Daily Motion and you're watching the GFQ network and you're watching, Tom Merritt and Brian Brushwood and all these shows, it's sucking up bandwidth.
Oh yeah.
You're
watching HD feeds all day long. I know people sit there and watch Twit all day.
It's happening. So the ISPs are realizing, listen, not everyone is pirating that's consuming this much bandwidth. So how do we screw them? I know. The future. We set a precedence now for the future. And this is what it is. You're locked in.
But I still think you're talking about two different systems here. You're talking about wireless versus home broadband.
Yeah, my point is they've given up on home broadband.
Completely different. If your home broadband is being throttled, that's ridiculous.
Which Comcast does.
Caps, but that's different than throttling.
It's different than throttling. I mean, there are some caps, but
because even if you go over a bandwidth cap, they're not slowing down your speed.
Well, actually,
but if you're online on a wireless carrier, yes, they are slowing down your speed.
Well, I'll tell you something. I know someone that had Comcast. This is years ago. They were doing this. They were throttling you. He had 10 megs Comcast, and by his own admission, the guy was pirating stuff. Comcast sent him a warning. He said, "Screw you." He did it again, and they throttled his speed down to 640K.
That's a different situation, though.
So they throttled it down to 640K, and his phone no longer worked, and he had VoIP service. He ended up suing Comcast because there was an emergency. And he couldn't call out because, remember, he had VoIP. And it was so throttled that the people couldn't understand what was happening. There was some issue. I don't know what happened beyond that. I know he was filing a lawsuit against Comcast, and it was this whole battle that he was going through. But they were doing that. Now, what happens to the future of wireless data, of LTE and beyond LTE? What happens to the future of this if this is what they're planning on doing? You were saying the upper 5%. Okay, so do we change that by saying, you know what, screw you. Now we're going to consume more bandwidth so that bubble gets pushed up higher?
I don't know. I'm trying to gauge because there's a lot of unknown data out there about this. So there's no way for anybody to really come to a very good conclusion about what should and shouldn't be done in regards to this situation. What is the top 5%? How much are they using? What are they using it for? How are they using it? Because the way that I use mine, I would think that a lot of people do, is that a lot of the times they're still, if they're at home, they're on their Wi-Fi network. So it's not going to use LTE.
Yeah.
So you do have that ability to offset your LTE when you're on Wi-Fi.
Yeah. You know what would actually kind of work? If you could have... listen, this is crazy that we're even having this discussion because it doesn't cost them much to not do this to us. But if you're in your house and you get because some people don't want to get broadband if they have LTE. I know many people that think that they could just use their LTE for everything. They don't understand the concept that it's not intended for that currently. But if you have some sort of base station at home, Verizon knows that you're consuming it at home, so they don't count that towards your bandwidth. But again, then it's not net neutrality, right?
Yeah.
They're not treating packets equally.
I want to move on to this other story that's very much similar to what we're talking about. A report came out from the government. The Government Accounting Office today said that let me find the exact story here. Customers are actually fine with their bandwidth being limited on wireless, but they do not expect their bandwidth to be limited at home on home broadband services.
Yeah. But why are they fine with it?
Yeah, government researchers have come to conclusion that should surprise no one. People don't want data caps on home internet service. But some customers are getting caps anyway, even though ISPs admit, this is the interesting part, ISPs admit that congestion isn't a problem.
So their pipes are fine.
This is the big thing here. They're saying that your home internet, we have no problem with that whatsoever in terms of congestion, but we're still going to play around with bandwidth caps.
Yeah. But why?
To generate revenue.
Yeah. So
that's the only reason for them to impose any sort of bandwidth cap or bandwidth limit on your home internet. Because they freely admit that they don't have any congestion issues. They just want to generate revenue so that they can perform capacity upgrades.
Do you know what the cap is for your provider? You have Comcast, right?
I have Comcast, and I believe in my particular area, they don't have any limits right now.
Okay, but I had read a couple years ago it was 500 gigs. What have you heard that the cap is? Because I remember a couple years ago.
I heard about 300.
300 gigs. Okay, yes. So Comcast would not work for me. But if you got a business line, it would be fine. You wouldn't be capped.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
At least you have an option.
But then you're probably almost quadrupling your cost.
We go through terabytes.
Well, you stream
like
a bunch of stuff all day long.
Like, so. I want to say we probably go through about 15 terabytes between both lines, both Fios lines.
That's crazy.
Because we did the math a while ago, and I think the cap for Verizon, like it's a soft cap. They won't question anything unless you hit this, was 80 gigs, 80 terabytes. Some guy in California hit 80 terabytes, and that was their cap. That's when they started asking, like, what are you doing? What's going on?
I'd probably be asking. I think they have the right to ask at that point.
Yeah. I mean, if you're hitting 80...
If it's residential...
Yeah, it was some guy.
What are you doing that's taking 80 terabytes?
It's a lot. But this concept is silly. What do you think the future of this is? I mean, in 10 years, when we look at what broadband in the United States is going to be like, what are we looking at? Are we looking at, are the ISPs...
hoping, well, here's my hope is that we're going to have gigabit internet everywhere.
Sure. In 10 years.
Not only that, but it's going to be symmetrical.
Okay, so let's go back 10 years ago.
Well, think about it this way. If the ISPs freely admit that congestion isn't a problem, why do we still have these lopsided data speeds whereby, let's say I have 50 megabits down, but I only have at most 20 up?
Yeah.
Well, why isn't it 50 by 50?
Well, I think we're getting to that point. I think we're getting to that.
Congestion is not a problem. why is there an artificial limit on upload speed versus download speed? Shouldn't they both be the same at that point then?
This is such a screwed up
I
thing.
think to me, this study, this report by the GAO reinforces that data speeds for home internet should be symmetrical.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Download and upload should be the exact same.
I mean, it doesn't really matter, does it? I mean, even 90% of people...
It's not a congestion problem.
So then what's the problem?
You can't blame that.
Yeah, then what's the problem? They want tiers, that's why. They want to tier it, and they want to charge you for
they
everything.
Can still have tiers. You can still do 50 by 50, 75 by 75, 105 by 105. You still have your tiers.
Yeah, the reality is, John, government intervention...
Why is it 50 by 20?
Government intervention does not fix this problem. What fixes the problem is competitiveness. An open market for people to compete. You know what? There's a reason why Verizon is raising their speeds. There's a reason why you have Comcast doubling speeds in the future. We saw what happened. Perfect example of competitiveness. Google comes into a neighborhood and AT&T Uverse, which was not doing much, they weren't providing with phenomenal speeds, they freak out and they double and quadruple their speeds overnight. They say, no, guys, the 300 gigs, the 300 megs, you'll get it right now, but we're going to give you 1 gigabit. That's how you do it. That's how you regulate this market, by allowing companies to compete with each other. Now, the problem here in New York is that there's a lot of regulation that goes into it. The municipalities,
way too much regulation.
The municipalities do not want ISPs coming in. It's a weird thing. It took Verizon years to come into New York City.
I think that's fine so long as they're able to offer their own at a decent price.
Yeah.
If their point is to have their own and charge you an arm and a leg for it, I think that's wrong.
Yeah.
That's not free market at that point.
Yeah. Well, Kurt said something interesting in the chat. He goes, the problem is that Google could afford to get into the country and start competing. The entry cost is too high. Absolutely. But here's the perfect example. You have Time Warner Cable here in New York City. There is no other cable provider to compete with Time Warner Cable. They essentially have a hold on the entire market. You cannot, there is no place in New York that you have more than one option for internet service. And one option, I'm talking about cable, one option for television service for cable. It's one cable for that area. Verizon comes in, shakes everything up, but at the end of the day, Verizon shook hands with all these companies and said, I'm sorry, I'm not going to compete anymore, but I'll stay where I am. That's insane.
It's frustrating because according to this report now, to me, there's no reason why there shouldn't be symmetrical speeds up and down.
No, and cable companies should not have territories. They should not be running like that. That's what happened with the phone company, and AT&T had to split it. And they had to, open up their lines. That's the only way that you create a competitive market, by people entering.
There's a lot of things that just should be changed.
Yeah. Go to another story, John.
So this is a very scary story that we found out this week. There's new malware that can live inside any USB device undetected.
Okay, we're talking about thumb drives. We're talking about anything USB based.
Yes, anything USB.
Printers,
based.
webcams, hard drives,
hubs, even
even
the little things for your to charge your phone with an AC outlet.
That weird USB toaster you get at ThinkGeek.
Yep. Anything with a USB interface on it is at risk here. What I guess from my understanding is that it's infected through the firmware of whatever the USB device is. And it can infect basically anything. It can transfer itself to any other USB device, and you have absolutely no idea that it's there. And there's no way for you to actually clean it, delete it, run antivirus on it, or anything like that.
That is scary. But what are the odds that these devices are getting infected? I mean, you know where this problem lies. A device comes, you don't know what it is. It's coming from China. It could be a malicious company.
Yeah, this is called bad USB, by the way.
Bad USB is what it is.
Keyboards, mice.
What do you do if this is happening?
They say that the only way to treat this really is to treat it like hypodermic needles, trusting only those devices that have been used within your personal ecosystem,
Yeah.
and throwing away anything else that has come in contact with computers.
Yeah. So be careful what you're buying, really.
It's scary because this is something that, and in the age that we live in, this is something that, knowing what our own government has done, could do to us as well, whereby we know that the NSA will intercept electronic equipment and install backdoors and everything into the hardware itself. So what's going to stop the NSA from doing the same with every USB device now?
Yeah. It's kind of, listen, I think these stories are going to come up. Just buy stuff that you know. You know? Just be careful what you're buying. What you're plugging into your computer.
And we've already seen some similar cases where we've seen infected USB drives and stuff handed out between other governments. You know, China handed something out, I think it was, that ended up being infected. And I think we handed out something that they accused us of spying on them with. So.
Listen, we have to remember to practice safe computing. I'm just saying. Samsung, this is actually a surprising story. Samsung sees its lowest profit in 2 years as smartphone sales start to, they're in a slump, really. In the second quarter, Samsung posted profits of 6.25 trillion, down from 7.77 trillion over the last year. This is the lowest quarter profits in 2 years. People, what's attributed to this? Samsung did put out the new S5, their latest phone. You have 2 iPhones now in the market. A lot of Chinese brands are cutting into the sales of Samsung, other lower Chinese brands. This market is shaken up. I mean, again, it's not a big loss for Samsung, but what do you attribute this to, John? I mean, really, they really shouldn't be losing money considering they have 50,000 phones on the market at the same time.
I don't know. I feel like this year has really slowed down a lot. Compared to the past couple of years, it feels like this year has gone by a lot more slowly in terms of the amount of devices that we've seen and the amount of hype that we've seen over devices. Yes, there's still hype there, especially around Android and like the Galaxy S5 or the Galaxy S4. Yes, there's still some hype there, but it still seems like in years past, it felt like there was a new flagship Android device every couple of months or so.
I also think that the flagship devices meant something.
Yeah.
Even a year ago when Samsung put out the S4, when the Nexus came out, these flagships meant a lot more, but I think now it's diminishing because everybody's putting out a new flagship every year, and now the flagships have different versions and different varieties. You could get a 4.7-inch version of the flagship. You could get a 5.5-inch version of the flagship. I think it's diminishing the importance of the device to the market. Like right now, I'm not buying a Samsung phone. I didn't buy an S5. I bought an LG G2. Why? I don't know. I really can't tell you. I also am turned off at all the gimmicks that they put on these phones. You know, Apple is expecting to ship the most that they have ever shipped for the next iPhone, for the iPhone 6. I think a lot of people... I
think it's a little bit of a market saturation out there.
Absolutely.
This year.
But I think with
I think
the iPhone...
that, to me, makes the most sense is that there's just so much market saturation already. And even this year alone, we've seen new competitors, such as Amazon, coming out with even more Android devices and even their own phones. So,
yeah.
But then again, it's not like the Amazon Fire Phone is doing that well to begin with. So I don't know that this is something that's limited to just to Samsung. But then again, Samsung was, for the first 2-3 years of Android, basically the king of Android phones.
Yeah.
And it just does not seem like there's necessarily a king anymore in terms of Android flagship phones.
So, have you read about the OnePlus One?
I've heard about this, but I don't understand what the big deal is over it.
I should be getting an invite within the next couple of weeks. A week or two. I should have an invite for it. And I think I'm going to get it. It's $299, and they're deeming it the 2014 flagship killer. So their entire concept is that this is, you're not tied to a carrier. It's $299 out of pocket. The phone is yours. And the specs are phenomenal on this thing. It's really unbelievable specs.
Yeah, I mean the hype that I'm seeing over the OnePlus One phone is what we were seeing a couple of years ago, I think, in terms of Android devices.
By the way,
where every 4 months there's an Android device everybody was just clamoring for.
So this is the phone for the enthusiast. It's running the latest Snapdragon 801 processor, 5.5-inch display, 4G, replaceable battery, so you could take the battery out, 1080p display, 13-megapixel camera, and it's using Cyanogen. So it's a special version of Cyanogen mod. I'm really impressed by it. I really am
it'll be
by
interesting to see when people start getting their hands on this device, how it actually plays out, if it lives up to all the hype that's out there right now.
I had zero.
Brian makes an interesting point in the chat room. He says that this phone is just a pure marketing ploy.
By who?
Whoever makes the OnePlus phone.
No, I think this is great. What are your options when it comes to this? What other phone? It's not about the specs, really.
Well,
it's a flagship device.
This is going to be for the people that are looking for that particular type of phone that they can pay out of pocket, and that's going to be.
And that's my point. My point is, why is this phone $299 and it's the top of the line, everything?
I don't know that this is going to live up to the hype. Because we've seen similar situations before where Google's tried to sell stuff on their own. And this, to me, sounds like a very similar situation where they're trying to sell this device on their own without anybody else's help, where you can get it wherever you want, however you want.
I think that's great.
That tends not to actually be the case. People don't care about that.
I think most people, listen, I don't think the average person is going to get this. They really don't care for it. But the point is, this device is $300. While an S5 and an LG G3, if you were to pay out of pocket, you're paying $500, $600, $700 for this thing. And that is the craziness with these unsubsidized phones.
Yeah.
That's what my problem is. Because, yeah, spec versus spec, it's identical. But why is this phone able to sell for $299 while an S5 is selling for $600, $700? It is not a $600, $700 device. I don't care what anybody says about research and development and everything, every other thing that's incorporated in the price. There's research and development put into this. Google's putting research and development into their phones. So that's not an argument. The point is they have you pretty much by the balls, and they want to lock into a contract. I think I'm going to get one of these. I'm looking at it, and it's very impressive. The camera looks good. The picture quality. Yeah, well, unfortunately, they're not sending any of them out. Yeah, they're very selective.
Like I said, I think right now there's a lot of hype over it, and my concern is that it's not going to live up to that hype. I mean, a lot of times that's the way these things play out, is that they don't always play out to the hype.
Yeah.
So until people actually start getting this and using it for a couple of months, I don't know what to think of it other than just to kind of take the hype with a grain of salt.
Well, you know what?
That's where I'm at with it. I'm not jumping on the bandwagon like a lot of people seem to be doing, because that's what I see right now. There's a ton of people, all my friends on Twitter and Facebook are saying, hey, anybody got a OnePlus phone invite? Please send me a OnePlus phone invite. I'm like, okay, what's the big deal? It's a phone that you can buy outright for $299.
Yeah. I think that's the point of it. I think that's a big deal.
But they're acting as if it's more than that.
Yeah, well, it's not.
And I don't see it as that big of a deal. I really don't.
It's an unsubsidized phone for $299 that you could replace the battery. That's all. And it's good quality. I mean, it's a flagship phone. It's not the Moto X is not a flagship phone. I'm sorry. It's not the highest end phone when you talk about the specs. So we'll see what happens. All right, John, going to another story.
So there's a new person in the bidding war for T-Mobile now. Sprint, earlier, their parent company, SoftBank, put in a $32 billion bid to buy T-Mobile, and they're still waiting for approval and all that stuff to go through.
So T-Mobile, a company that has existed for many years, that has a service that generates revenue, is valued at $32 billion, while Snapchat, which is the flavor of the month, is $10 billion.
Yes.
It's insane. insane world we live in.
Well, a French company that operates as a mobile carrier in France known as Free, but the company is actually called Iliad, is said to be making a bid for T-Mobile. We don't have any details on how much they're offering, but apparently Iliad's market share or market value, excuse me, is only about 16 billion. So we're unsure of how this is going to really play out because that's only about half of what SoftBank is offering to get T-Mobile for. Their reasoning behind this is that, well, we don't already own Sprint, so we don't already operate something in the United States.
Yeah.
So if you get, so maybe we can have an easier time going through the process of being approved, since we're actually still going to be keeping T-Mobile the way it is.
I kind of would like to see that. I would rather have it independent.
It'll be interesting because I was watching Daily Tech News Show yesterday because he had Patrick Beja on there, who lives in France and actually knows a little bit about this company. And apparently the guy that owns Iliad is very much a character that's very interesting. So I'm not necessarily sure that what he has an idea for a mobile phone company is going to work over here.
Yeah.
It sounds like he's very strict and very restrictive in terms of what he likes customers to be able to do. So I'm a little concerned about that. I think that would be great that we would basically leave T-Mobile as a fourth carrier, whereas if SoftBank buys it, they're going to roll it into Sprint. If Iliad buys it, well, they're going to leave it as T-Mobile as a competitor to AT&T and the other two companies.
Sure.
But I'm just unsure of how Iliad would make changes to T-Mobile.
You know,
if it's going to end up, because T-Mobile has been doing this whole uncarrier brand, which has been working out very well for them. And I'm not necessarily sure that Iliad would come in and stick with that sort of uncarrier plan that is working very well right now for T-Mobile.
Yeah. You know, T-Mobile is doing something interesting, but the bottom line is it's two carriers, and that they've been able to kind of grab a hold of this market. It's Sprint, it's AT&T and Verizon.
Yeah.
And I have service with neither one here where I live. I mean, there's no... I'm in the freaking Twilight Zone. There's no cell service in this house, so it doesn't matter for me.
It's your house, man.
I you know what? It's the freaking ghosts in this house. Spooky.
Just put up a transmitter.
I mean, you can. You can put a transmitter up. All right, John, you want to do our picks?
Sure.
All right, we're going to do our picks of the week. We talk about a product, a website, anything that we liked. And by the way, an MCell doesn't work right because it's only 3G, so that's out of the question. We are... John has an interesting pick, and I have a pick also. So, John, what is your pick?
And my pick of the week is Guardians of the Galaxy. I saw it last night, and you can go ahead and mute me if you don't want any spoilers. I'm going to try not to spoil anything. My overall opinion is it is freaking awesome. So good, in fact, that I think I might actually go back and see it a second time.
You're kidding me.
I never do. I never do that. I believe that Guardians of the Galaxy is the summer blockbuster film, in my opinion, of this year. Yeah, you could say that Dawn or Rise of the Dawn of Planet Apes or whatever the heck that movie was the summer film. But I think, in my opinion, if you're a sci-fi guy, this is the blockbuster film for you. I love this film. You got Chris Pratt as Star-Lord, of course, which everybody knows that. There's no spoiler there. He's fantastic as Star-Lord. And there was a lot of information there because I'm not familiar with the Marvel Universe as much as other people are. I'm not a complete geek when it comes to that area.
Yeah. So
I got a lot of information about it as well. You had Zoe Saldana as Gamora. You have Group, which is voiced by Vin Diesel, that's just hilarious. That character and what they did with Vin Diesel. If you actually watch the movie, I'm not going to spoil it, but it's very interesting. Bradley Cooper as Rocket, which was really good. I thought Bradley Cooper did a very good job as Rocket for playing a CGI raccoon. You know,
yeah.
How much more can you do with it? And then you also had Lee Pace as Ronan. I absolutely did not realize that Ronan was played by Lee Pace.
You had Dave Bautista.
Yeah. He was all right, but I think my favorite character, of course, because I'm a Doctor Who fan, was Karen Gillan as Nebula. I didn't exactly know what to expect of Karen Gillan as Nebula in Guardians of the Galaxy, but I was very pleasantly surprised at how well her character was played. It was just, and I think I do wish that there was a little bit more Nebula in this film because it was just such a really good portrayal of Nebula, in my opinion.
So what is this leading to? What's the next one in this storyline?
I don't know what the next one is, but they did say that there is going to be another Guardians of the Galaxy follow-up.
And I think that they are working on
did
Infinity.
allude to it. If you actually watch the film, I'm not going to say it, but you'll understand why. There's definitely a story there that they can follow on based off of this one. But I thought it was very well done. It was hilarious at a lot of parts. It was just very well done.
Very
Directed
cool.
by James Gunn. I really can't say enough about this film. In fact, like I said, it's one of those films that I am thinking of going back to seeing a second time, which I never do.
That's awesome. I would go watch it, but I don't go to the movies.
I don't know if
filthy.
everybody will agree that people are going to compare this to other Marvel films as well, like Captain America and Winter Soldier and The Avengers. I think it's a little bit different than what Marvel has done because this is more of a universe-based out there, not just Earth-based in that way. But I think it holds its own special place in the Marvel universe that I think you can't necessarily draw a direct comparison to Avengers or Captain America.
Yeah. I'm hoping that Infinity's next. Yeah, so I'm looking at the next movie. So Avengers Age of Ultron is going to be the next movie that comes out. Guardians of
really
the Galaxy
good.
2 is going to be 2017.
Yeah, I mean, I had high expectations for Guardians of the Galaxy. I think a lot of people had high expectations, and it pretty much delivers on those expectations.
Yeah. I guess they don't have Infinity in here yet.
It's my favorite film of 2014 right now.
Very cool. Very cool.
Even better than Captain America, which a lot of people said was their favorite film.
Yeah, Cap was good.
It was good, but I think I liked Guardians better.
Yeah. All right, John, my pick this week. I'm a Mac user. I'm open about it. I talk about it. And this last week, actually, I was going to make it my pick of the week, but I didn't get a chance. Last week, they released a free public preview for the new version of OS X, and that's Yosemite. I have Yosemite. I've been running it for a week now. I have no bugs, no problems with it. Everything is working fine. No issues at all. This is a very stable beta. Now, I'm not going to recommend you to go and get this. It's if you're doing any kind of special software and you use it for work. I don't really use my MacBook for anything other than, basic computer stuff. I don't really keep a lot of stuff on the hard drive. Everything is in the cloud, so it's easy for me to blow it away and then start fresh. But I did an install over the last version. Everything is phenomenal. Everything is great. It's much prettier. It's much flatter. They did some changes to Finder. I mean, essentially, it's the same exact thing, just a little prettier. That's what you want. It kind of looks like Tiger, which is crazy because a lot of people, when they went over to the different look after Tiger to 10.6, everybody was saying how great it looked, and now we're kind of reverting back to the flatter UI, which is cool. I haven't had any issues, which I'm surprised. Wirecast works fine. The thing that we use for soundboard works fine. All my other applications work fine. The only thing, Skype crashed on me twice, and I don't know if that's a Skype issue or if it's the operating system. But go and try it out if you have a Mac and you want to give this a try. For me, it's been super fun. Have you installed it, John? Have you played with it?
I don't have a Hackintosh to put it on.
Oh, you got rid of the Hackintosh?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
You weren't using it?
Nope.
Okay. So, John, don't install it. But I'm sure our viewers will go and install it. All right. That was my pick of the week. John, you want to do the plugs?
If you want to follow us, you can go to our website, gfqnetwork.com. Subscribe to us. All our episodes are on there. You can also follow us on Twitter at Suncast. That's spelled with a K, Sunkast. And you can also follow Andrew on Twitter at Andrew Zarian. And if you could also support us on Patreon. We have a Patreon for What the Tech, but you can also support us through What the Tech as well. If you go to patreon.com, gfq.com/whatthetech. You can also support us through Amazon. If you go to gfqnetwork.com/contribute, we have links for the U.S. store, Canada, and I believe also UK. So if you're in any of those locations, you can use our link, and it'll benefit us every time that you make a purchase on Amazon. It's really cool. It's very easy to use. Just go to our website if you need those links. It's very easy to use, like I said. Is there anything else I'm missing?
No, that's it.
Cool.
That's it. Free for All is live tonight. If you're watching live right now, if you're not, then totally ignore this part. 8 p.m. East, we'll be back, and we'll see you all next week.